Hey there, YouTube. Welcome on back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And before I get into the video, I'd like to give a special shout out to my friend Lance for sending me a very cool mug. And Lance works for NASA, obviously. And I guess I should turn it around and show it to you there. And he sent this to me, and it's a very great mug. So thank you very much, Lance, and game on, my friend. And before I get into the video, if you like the video and the content, please click the like button. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed, feel free to click that subscribe button followed by the bell icon. Every time this ugly mug uploads a brand new video, you're going to get a notification so you don't miss one. Alright, well, let me see. So far, this summer has been very interesting, to say the least. We've had quite the roller coaster ride up here in Michigan. This has to be the rainiest July that I can ever remember, followed by just overall busy with work, which is good. We're staying busy and everything keeps moving in the right direction, so that's a good thing. And well, the last couple of weekends have been really noteworthy. Let me see, last Saturday we were inundated with tornadoes. That was, well, we're okay here. We had no damage or anything like that. And then last night, to start the weekend off, as old Artichoke is sitting here, and I get the smell of burning wires, what it smelled like. So I decided to investigate, to walk outside to see, well, in my neighborhood there is a house fully involved in flames, and yeah, so we were kind of up late last night. Everybody's okay. Everybody made it out. You know, with the fire department and all the activity and just all of that. It was just, so far it's been a very unique summer, I guess you could say. Typically I like my summers a little bit more on the quiet side, so what can you do? Anyways, so what I want to talk about is some of the stuff that I'm gearing up for. I'm getting ready for the fall months and winter when I do a whole lot of my gaming, and some of the things that I have been playing around with right now and really enjoying, and talk about them a little bit. Maybe it's something you find interesting for your game table, and maybe integrate into your libraries as well. The first one, this game was just, oh man, let's just pick it up here. Mage Knight. Now, I had traded a friend of mine, Trevor. He also has a channel, Deathstalker 5, and I had done a game trade with him. I had the old Rollmaster box set, and I never really played it a whole lot. Went through it a couple of times, but it didn't really appeal to me as much as it did to him. So I had traded him, and we traded Mage Knight, the Ultimate Edition, for that. And I am very glad I did. I have been looking for this game for quite a long time. But unfortunately, it's one of those that's very expensive. And as it so happens with him, he had ordered one that he saw on a flash sale, and somehow in transition it had gotten lost in the mail, and as he was told. But then two showed up to his house, and Amazon told him, look, instead of us shelling out the money for shipping, because this thing is heavy, it's got some weight to it, it's probably every bit, I'm gonna guess, I haven't weighed it, but I'm gonna say this probably comes in close to about 10 pounds worth of game here. So they said, instead of paying that shipping to ship it back, just go ahead and keep it, and they'll write it off as a loss. So I got a brand new copy, and But it kind of broke me for a while. Every time I would sit down to get into this thing, the phone would ring. I would be there. It was just like something always came up that was pulling me away into another direction. And this happened about close to a dozen times. And then finally, the night came that I just said, enough. I don't care if the phone rings. I don't care if another tornado drops down out of the sky. I don't care what goes on. I am going to get into Mage Knight. And that's what I did. And I was very, very pleased about this game. And even though I don't like card games, I do really enjoy this. So let's talk about what Mage Knight is and what it is not. So first thing right off the rip, Mage Knight has elements of an RPG game. The fact that you choose a character and your goal is to defeat enemies to gain experience, essentially, to level up your character, to unlock new skills, and to gain better access to advanced action cards and artifacts and spells and all of these things to, at that point, be able to build yourself up to defeat stronger foes as it goes along. But you're not limited to that as well. You can also go to certain areas on the map that have settlements on them, and you can also recruit hirelings, if you will. But where it gets unique with that, the cool thing about this game is you can set it up and you can play the same scenario 2-3 times in a row, and it's never going to be the same every single time. And the reason for that is there's so much variability that goes into it that it's unpredictable, even solo. Now, there's a couple of rules in the set that I'll probably never play with, like the player versus player, for the fact that, well, I'm a soloist. I enjoy solo games, which is why I've been, looking for Mage Knight for quite a while. But the thing that I noticed that goes into it, particularly with the deck, is there's a lot of strategy with this game. There's a whole lot, even solo, for the fact that as you draw a card will depict the action you take, whether it's movement or attack or healing, so on and so forth. There's a lot more to it than that. I'm just skimming the top. But you have a maximum hand size of 5 cards, unless you have an ability or something else like that that allows you to have more, but you're restricted to that. Now, anytime you were to get wounded in this game, you have to pick up a wound marker card. That takes place in one of the other cards that you could use to move your character around, attack, defend, so on and so forth, cast a spell. So you're really put underneath the gun to make some rather critical decision making, even solo, to be successful at the game. And I had found quite quickly, the first couple of times that I played this, was the fact that the one thing I noticed for me that really inhibited me was the fact that you don't have enough movement cards. So you really have to be resourceful. You have to look at everything, and without movement, you're kind of how do I put this? Kind of screwed. I guess that's the best way to put it. And but it's an excellent game. Let's open it up and just take a look at a few things here. Not too many. Now, one thing about this game, like any of these card games, is there's no shortage of tokens. You're going to have a huge amount of tokens that come with this game. If you do decide to pick this thing up and put it into your library, or perhaps you already have it, and if you do, drop some comments in the link below and, let me know what your thoughts are on it. But what I did, and it's a little trick I even used for Gloomhaven that I found, because a lot of these larger games, one of the problems with them is this setup time. The setup time can be massive. And typically by the time you get everything set up, you're exhausted from setting all this stuff up. And the other thing is, this game can be a table hog. And you have to have a large area to be able to set all this stuff out, because there's a lot that goes into this game besides tokens. But me personally, what I have found is the Ziploc bag can be your friend in putting all your tokens into the bag. So when you go to do setup and you pick your character, you just grab the bag rather than having them all loosely thrown into the box and spending more time sorting through them to put everything together. That's just me, and well, all my games are like that. Even Gloomhaven, I got Gloomhaven all sorted, the monsters sorted in their own bags and everything, so as I play the game, mind you, it's been a while since I played Gloomhaven, but when I do play it, I can go into it and just grab everything I need quite quickly, and it makes setup just so much more easy than rifling through all this stuff. So one of the unique things about Mage Knight that is very interesting is your tracker card here. And what this does, it keeps track of either your day or your night. Now, it's not actually a tracker card, it's just your day or night. But the unique thing is, you are allotted so much movement to move into a hex on the game board. And let me pull out a hex to show you what I'm talking about here. So you have plenty of tiles like this. And if you look at them tiles, they're, basically your basic GeoHex gaming grid. And, well, just like you would find in an RPG, if you move from one hex to another, like a hex crawler, of course there's associated movement costs, so on and so forth. And Mage Knight's no different. It works out that way, and it really does have an RPG feel to it. Now, the thing about day or night is, if you are playing in the daytime, it lists all of your terrain movement costs there. But soon as night hits, those have a tendency to increase, and that's going to cost you more movement, which can really strain your resources. Very interesting. The other thing is the use, and what really takes up some room on your table is this right here. This is your true tracker card. This is what keeps track of your progress your progress over here as far as leveling. And then of course this is your reputation score, basically. So if you look at that, if you're kind of a jerk and you like plundering towns and burning down everything that you come in contact with, you're probably not going to be that popular with the people in this world, and you're going to be here. But if you do good deeds, you defeat a lot of the evil creatures in the area, and you're really helping the people out, at that point, you're going to go into, hey, we really like this guy. This guy's a good guy. He's not coming just to burn the monastery down and take all the artifacts. He's actually coming here to help. But the other cool thing about it is how when you defeat creatures in this game, they have a point system to them, and I basically equate that to your XP. And as you defeat them, as you notice, you see these number columns right here, and then a little bit further over, you'll notice these symbols. And them symbols represent, as you go up in XP, you gain more skills, you gain more advanced action cards, which basically reflects your character actually building and becoming more powerful of a character. to be able to do more things into the game, which is, well, it's a very, very cool game system. And I have to say, I really enjoy this more than Gloomhaven. I think this honestly has a lot more to offer for me personally, than Gloomhaven. And I'm not saying Gloomhaven's a bad game, because Gloomhaven's not a bad game. Gloomhaven it's an RPG type of board game that's based in what we would consider a D&D world, and it's very popular. A lot of people like it, and compared to a lot of RPG systems there and some of the expense associated with the books and expansions and everything else, sometimes things like Gloomhaven can be a good purchase because you just pay that money up front and you have everything, and it has a lot of replayability with it. Mage Knight offers that as well. This is the Ultimate Edition, so all the expansions are in here. This is the complete game system all in one pop. And I'll tell you what, if you're looking for a really, really good solo experience, that's a board game that has RPG aspects to it along with deck building and a lot of strategy, that's the one thing that this game does not really chint you on, is the strategy, because you get a lot of it in this. And even when you play solo, it has a rule there for a dummy player. And that dummy player is basically like the time tracker, because the way that they break up the game is you have a turn and then a round. So after you deal your cards, you move, you attack, you do whatever, it would be at that point, if you were playing in a group of people, would go to the next player, and then so on and so forth, until somebody's out of cards and they can no longer play, and then at that point the round would end. When the round ends, you would go from day at that point to night until the next round, and then it would start over again. The other cool thing that they do with this game system that I really do like is they have cards for the day and for the night, and they act like initiative, and it really does work well with the solo aspect of this game. Typically, the way that they recommend it is you pick your card and then you pick one randomly for the dummy players, that they refer to it. I don't use that rule. The reason why is I mean, it's not going to take a dumb person to figure out, well, why don't I just grab 6 every single time and I can go first every single time. So what I do is shuffle the cards and I deal 2 face down, one for the dummy player, one for myself, and reveal them. And each one that you draw, it goes numbered from 1 to 6. Some of them offer you little advantages into the game, whether that's increasing your hand size for that particular turn, taking an extra turn, so on and so forth. So there's all kinds of the initiative's a little bit more than an initiative. It does give you some goodies and advantage as well in the game system, rather than just being what we would call initiative for if you were playing an RPG. Initiative just is that. Initiative is who goes first, who goes last. Nevertheless, it is that, but it's a lot more. And I really like that. It's really cool. The other thing that I do like about Mage Knight is you get some pretty decent quality minis with it to represent your character in the world and on the board. And the character I've been using quite often is Tovek, which is this guy right here. And hold him up a little closer to the camera. You can see he's got some pretty decent detail for, a pre-painted mini that you get in the game set. And the thing about these minis is I would definitely keep them in the bubble wrap, for the fact that looking at it, like the sword, typically most minis you get, it's all one mold, but this, you can see, this is actually clear plastic that for his sword there. Just trying to hold it up so you can see there. And, well, it's not part of the resin mini, so which means it can be prone to snapping and breaking off. So it's not going to be one of the minis you're going to want to throw into your box that you keep your other loose minis in for when you go to play your RPG system, whether it's solo or your friends or whatever else. So yeah, I really do recommend, if you do pick up the system, is to keep the mini in the blister pack that they give you to protect them. I don't even know what it would cost to replace some of these minis. I don't want to find out. I'm happy with the way that they are, but some of the sculpts and the paint that they have straight from WizKids is pretty good, if you ask me. And I really, really do like it. And I kind of like how they integrated the old HeroClix system into it as well. I have a lot of Mech Warrior, and if you're not familiar with Mech Warrior is a very cool miniature skirmish type of game, but instead of using medieval miniatures to represent them on your battle map, at that point you're using very advanced mech fighters. And of course you have aerial fleets and heavy armor fleets and so on and so forth. But the cool thing about it, rather than having a ledger on a piece of notebook paper where you're keeping track of all this damage and everything, at that point you just turn the bottom base and it automatically updates the stats for you. I'm trying to see if I can get a... There you go. You can see it right there, that little window it gives you. So as the character, or I'm sorry, this foe takes damage, you're going to turn it and it's going to keep track of all that for you, so you don't have to worry about it. You can just look at the base. Same thing they do in Mech Warrior. Yeah, I love it. I love that system. It makes it so simple, particularly if you're playing solo, because it's much easier just to pick it up and click and set it back down on the board than it is having to run a ledger with and keeping track of all these points across everything. And of course, you do have your cities within Mage Knight. Now, I have not gone into too much cities. I've played 2 game scenarios through. The first one was the learning one. The second one was the actual game that I went through and I played, and really enjoyed it. But I had some other things going on, so I needed the table space, so unfortunately I had to end the game a little early and clean everything up and put it away. But even so, your city markers also have your... keep track of all your information in a HeroClix style, and you get a cool looking little mini. And you have multiple to represent the different cities that you can encounter on the map. And of course there are 4 different color cities. You got green, blue, red, and white. So Mage Knight is... it's a very good game. It's a very, very excellent, well designed, well thought out. Basically, it's an expensive game, don't get me wrong, but it's worth it. It's worth the money, because the replayability of this is a game you're gonna pull down, you're gonna play. You may it may get stale after a few games and you're gonna put it on your shelf, but then you're gonna find yourself going back to it a little while later and pulling it back down and going back through it again. Now, this particular set that I have, there are multiple scenarios through here because there's 2 expansions with it as well and everything you need. So there's more than enough to keep me busy here for a long time. And the nice thing is, even after you play a scenario, you could play the scenario again and, like I said, not get the same outcome. Now, of course, what I mean by that is, well, the scenario, they just tell you how to set up the deck, what tiles for what foes are there. Everything else is up to you. So it's literally, every time you play it, a different game, if you will. And that's cool. And the fact that you can play it solo, I mean, it's a win-win-win for the solo enthusiast or as a game group if you wanted to get together and game in an environment of a game that had RPG elements, deck building elements, miniature elements, exploration, and so on and so forth. Mage Knight has it all. And I have to tell you, they really, really did good on this one. And in my opinion, this is one of the more better solo game experiences for the soloist. And that's my Mage Knight. That's what I think on a Mage Knight. If I rated this game on a, I would give it for the solo experience, man, a 9 out of a 10 easily, just because of the fact that it is so good and it's worth it. It's a huge game. It's a fun game. It'll keep you busy for a while. No lack of strategy. So there's something in here for all kinds of gamers that they could enjoy different aspects, whether it's the RPG aspect, strategy aspect, exploration aspect, deck building aspect. It's in here. Excuse me. Now, I have been noticing lately, a few videos back, I talked about that I was done with Wizards of the Coast, and there's a couple of reasons for that. But the one thing I've noticed about Wizards of the Coast lately is, even though they're putting new products out there, they're printing more books and they're putting more crap out there, there's nothing, in a sense, new. And it's just kind of, for me personally, it's kind of gotten stale. It's kind of been like, okay, we have Ravenloft, which is great. We have Forgotten Realms campaign. You have the Dragonlance campaigns. You got the City of Greyhawk. You have all these cool things. But it's, in my opinion, kind of been overdone. And I've been noticing I've been turning back towards the older materials because they're better. They were newer. And for the fact that the direction that Wizards of the Coast is taking, and this is my opinion, so D&D, and particularly if we go back to the 80s, even through the 90s and the early 2000s, it was really about the gamers. And it was really making great products for the gamers. And then somewhere along the way, it almost seems like Wizards of the Coast has lost their way. And now everything is about commercialism and money and sell more and more and more and more and more. And I mean, even some of the stuff that they're coming out with now just absolutely makes no freaking sense as to why you would buy this Ravenloft campaign setting. And the book is, pricey enough as it is. And of course they had, I can't remember what they called, the Taroka deck. That's it. That went with it, which goes back to the original Ravenloft campaign setting, I guess you would call it. Because that's what it was. They called it an adventure then, but it was actually an entire setting. I don't think they knew it at the time. I don't think anybody knew what it would grow into today, but even in there it explained, hey, you can use a deck of regular playing cards, or you can use a couple 6-sided dice to draw your fortunes and do what you want. Wizards of the Coast said, no, we got a better idea. We'll make this specific deck we'll call the Taroga deck, and then we're going to have this book, and we're going to put it in this casket box set, which is basically a printed cardboard box shaped like a coffin, and we're going to charge an exuberant amount of money basically for a cardboard box. And I was just kind of like, this is stupid. And so that's kind of why I really started to dislike some of the stuff Wizards of the Coast was doing, because it's no longer about manufacturing great content, manufacturing a game that, you know, the vast majority of the people that are in your how do we put this, customer base are going to enjoy and engage with and really want to keep buying more. And it just went to, how do we market this to sell as much as we possibly can, to make as much money as we possibly can? Who cares about how good the game is or is not, or any of that? That just goes out the freaking window. It's all about the profit. And so with that, I could rant about this all day long, and these are just my personal opinions. If you enjoy 5th edition and you enjoy everything Wizards of the Coast is putting out, and you're having a great time at your gaming table, that's all that matters, really, honestly. It's your gaming table. Game it the way you want it. But for me, I've been finding the older stuff seems to be just more up my alley, and I enjoy it a lot more. And there are a couple of things that I picked up that have long been out of print, but they are great resources to have, to be able to put into your library. And so the first one I want to talk about, I've had this for quite a long time, and this is the Scarred Lands Gazetteer Galspad. And this has offered me hours of fun running through just this Gazetteer. And of course, this was made when 3rd edition came out, and you had D&D, and then of course you had the offshoot compatible line that was same as D&D, but some of the encounters were a lot more rude, and I mean, they offered more of a challenge. And that was the Swords and Sorcery setting, and I really did enjoy that. I love the Swords and Sorcery setting in 3rd edition. Have the bestiaries or monster manuals, however you want to put it, that they put out. Another one of their books I really enjoy when I played 3rd edition. Used it quite often to the point I worn the spine right out on it, and that's Relics and Rituals, which gives you all kinds of very unique spells to be able to equip to any of your magic character classes that the main core rule books just don't offer. And it really, opens up a lot more doors for you. And the cool thing I like about it is going through it and looking at some of these spell descriptions and some of the wealth of information it gives you out of that book. This is for me. It really helps me want to create more and break the boundaries of just what they offered in the basic 3rd edition. So I have found that 3rd edition really, it's a good system. It's an excellent system. I've always liked 3rd edition. I know when 3rd edition came out, people who were just 100% hardcore 2nd edition AD&D, and then of course you had your 1st edition AD&DS, they just hated 3rd edition, hated everything about it. Me personally, I loved it. It was very cohesive, it made sense. They came out with the D20 system, it made it more simple, the game flowed better, everything was just way better, which gave way to even making it more simple to play these games solo rather than having to have all these source materials spread out across your table for cross-reference tables and stuff like that that you no longer needed. So anyways, I'm rambling on here. So that made me go on a mission to find this right here, the Scarred Lands campaign setting of Galspad, which is going to give me a whole lot more information than what I got out of this. The Gazetteer basically just gave you the cliff notes of the land, whereas this is going to go way more into detail, give you a lot more resources, and a lot more of what I enjoy, the older stuff. And it's, I don't know, there's something about the older game systems, you just don't, how do I put this? It's like when you go back through the older AD&D stuff and you look at the artwork in there and a lot of the oil paintings that were done by Elmore, and they captured a moment. It captivated your imagination. You could sit and look at this picture and imagine being there and experiencing that moment. Whereas even the newer stuff with all the computer generated art that they're using in them, I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking the art or the artistic level of the artist that's creating them. It's just that the older RPG systems had this unique magic to them, particularly with Elmore's eye for art, the oil paintings that he did, and some of the things that have just been lost throughout time. And I hope one day, maybe, how they say, what's old will be new again. Maybe we'll come full circle and maybe that'll become popular again once more and we'll see it. But I don't foresee it in the near future. But I was very excited to find this campaign setting for Galesped. And this is kind of cool. Currently, and I'm working on a video right now, and it's going to take me a little while because I have been playing solo, but with other friends who play solo, and we've been doing a cooperative solo type of game, and I've recorded some of these game sessions that we have played together over the internet, and I'm going to compile a video, and I'm not done with it yet, so it's coming soon. It will be here, it will be out soon, and I'm hoping to have it done before fall, but it might take a little bit longer. It all just depends because even though we're having great fun with it, one of the things about playing with other people and playing RPG games, of course, always comes down to, first thing, life happens. One of the gentlemen that I game with, he is currently, he's fallen ill, and he's not feeling up to it, and so that kind of takes that right there. The whole life thing getting in the way. The other gentleman that I game with, Mr. Deathstalker 5, he's always busy. He runs an online store, so there's at times that there's days that are extremely daunting and they keep him busy all day, and I know how that goes. My wife did that for a while, and that can be a very fast-paced and brutal experience if you are an online merchant. And so typically by the time you're done with that, the last thing you want to do is engage with anything whatsoever on the internet. You just pretty much want to find a quiet corner in the house and sit and just relax and look at something that has nothing to do with the computer. But I have to say, I think one of the best things I picked up, and it's in decent shape, in considering it's been out of print for a while, it's harder to find. Took me a while to track this one down. But what had introduced me to it was I was watching Tubi, and of course I always go to the category of sword and sorcery, and I was watching that, and I came across a movie that I watched, and I really liked it. And it was kind of dark, but it was a medieval fantasy setting. And then it said it was based upon this game system called Mage Knight. And so I did research, and I looked around, and everybody was like, the best edition is the second edition. If you're going to get into Mage Knight, this is the one. And I was able to find that book right here, Midnight, second edition. And this is beautiful. This is printed by Fantasy Flight Games. And it is for the D20 system, 100% fully compatible with third edition. And one thing I can tell you about Fantasy Flight Games, I have quite a few of their board games, and I really enjoy it. But I will tell you what, recently here, this is the second RPG supplement I have picked up, published by Fantasy Flight Games. The other one is the Genesis RPG system in the realm of Terrana. Both of them are absolutely amazing. So if you're not familiar with Fantasy Flight Games RPG stuff, it's an extremely really well produced, thought out publication. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. This everything here is just off the hook, from the way it's presented, the way it's laid out, the editing, the art. Everything is just absolutely excellent. And we'll just give one brief example. I'm trying to be careful with this book because, like I said, it is now old, but as you can see, the artwork is absolutely out of this freaking world. The thing that I like about this book is how they broke it up into 3 sections. The first section being for the adventurers at Midnight, so he goes in there and it explains to you the different classes and the characters. The book 2 is the world of Midnight, so it's going to explain the entire world to you, break it down, and then the very end of it is for the DM. The resources that the DM can use to throw whatever kind of evil wickedness he could possibly want to at his players. But now it comes to the point, what is Midnight? You're probably saying, Artichoke, what the heck is it? Midnight is a unique setting, and it's one that I like, so I will just throw this out there right now. If you do not like Lord of the Rings, if you're not a Tolkien fan, if you don't even like the gaming, Midnight's probably not going to be a game setting you're going to want to get into. But if you are, Midnight will be a game setting that you will fall in love with quite quickly, and you're going to enjoy a lot. Midnight is based, now when I say this isn't copyright infringement, but if you're familiar with Tolkien, looking through this book, you're going to be able to connect the dots quite quickly. Midnight is based on the scenario that Sauron won. Sauron won and reigned supreme over Middle-earth. All of the races basically fled and are now in hiding. The dwarves are hiding in a mountain and trying to basically avoid the surface as much as they can from the shadow. The elves have retreated into their ancient forest and basically try to preserve what little they have left of their culture. And then the human culture, of course, has been subjugated to just horrible rule that's overran by the shadow. They are, of course, some of them rules that have been implemented upon them is there's no literacy, there's no weapons, and there's nothing magical allowed whatsoever. It's a punishment of death. And, of course, the cities are overran by the races that the shadow controls, and those are going to be your orcs and your goblins and everything that you see in the Tolkien series, the creatures that are underneath Sauron's control. Of course, they reign supreme across the land. The other cool thing about it is this is what's interesting. So there's no such thing as a cleric in this world. There is, but all the clerics are evil and they serve the shadow. So even though it's based on 3rd edition and you'd use the 3rd edition main core rulebooks to run this game, the cleric is not on the table. Now, with that being said, could you play a cleric? Absolutely, you could play a cleric, but you're not going to be, in the sense, a cleric that you would think of in D&D, to where you're following a good god of light and you're running around doing healing and doing all this divine stuff. It's not going to happen in this game system. In this game system, everything is extremely, well, dark, and it's ruled by Sauron, and it has fallen in darkness. So what more is there to say? And this is another great find, like I said, that I have recently picked up, and I love it. So far, everything, like I said, I've read out of here is just excellent, and I'm looking forward to getting into this. And this is going to be one of those systems that I'm hoping to shoot for the fall. Once, it really starts to get crappy and cold outside at that point, that would be a good this setting to go into. Maybe I can entice one of my friends, Lance or Trevor, who we are currently playing solo games. Maybe entice them into, but we'll see. If not, maybe one I just enjoy to go through by myself completely and have a lot of fun with it. So I guess we'll have to see how that goes. Now, I think that's quite a bit. I mean, I believe we covered quite a bit here, and yeah. Get me a swig of coffee. Before I go, parting words of wisdom. The secret to happy gaming, long nights of gaming, and joyful gaming is proper caffeination. You have to be properly caffeinated in order to enjoy these game systems. So don't forget, the next time you sit down to play a solo game, whether it's a solo board game, a full-fledged RPG, or heck, even if you're sitting down and you're popping a disc into your new PS5, your PS4, your PS3, your PS2, or even your PS, or it doesn't even have to be a PS, it could be a Nintendo or whatever it is. If it's gaming, does not matter. Don't forget, get yourself a hot cup of coffee, kick back and enjoy it, because life's short, my friends. Game on. That being said, this is Artichoke Dip, signing off.